The neon sign outside flickered again. Not completely broken, just inconsistent enough to make people hesitate before walking in. A Marlene's Diner buzzed faintly against the dry evening air, the pink glow reflecting off the dusty highway that cut through the outskirts of town like a forgotten promise. Inside, the place smelled like coffee, grilled onions, and something older, something lived in. Marlene wiped down the same counter spot for the third time. It wasn't dirty. It hadn't been dirty the first time either. At 52, Marlene had built her life on routine. Open at 6 a.m., close at 9 p.m., same 6 booths, same cracked vinyl stools, same handful of regulars who came more out of habit than hunger. She liked it that way, predictable, quiet, safe, because life hadn't always been that. Her eyes drifted, just briefly, to the far corner booth, the one by the window. It was empty now. But it wouldn't be for long. It never was. The bell above the diner door chimed softly, not loud, not dramatic, just enough to announce someone who didn't want attention. Marlene didn't look up right away. She already knew who it was. Slow footsteps, careful, measured, almost like each step was being considered before it happened. She set the rag down and turned. There he was, same as always. The boy, he couldn't have been older than 16, maybe 17 now, dark hair falling into his eyes, clothes slightly oversized like they weren't originally his, and quiet, always quiet, not shy, not awkward. Just silent. He didn't speak, not once, not in all the years he'd been coming. Marlene gave a small nod. Evening, no response, there never was. But that didn't stop her from saying it. The boy walked to the corner booth and sat down. Same seat, same position, back to the wall, eyes toward the door, always watching, always aware. Marlene noticed things like that. You don't run a diner this long without learning how to read people. And this boy, he wasn't just quiet, he was careful. She grabbed a plate without asking. Grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, side of bread, no menu, no order. She already knew, because for the last 4 years, that's what she'd been feeding him. The first time he came in, he hadn't even sat down. He just stood near the door, wet, shivering, eyes scanning like he was expecting to be told to leave. Most people would have. Small-town diners don't exactly welcome strangers who look like trouble. But Marlene had seen something else. Not danger, not attitude, hunger. The kind that wasn't just about food. So she'd made a plate, set it down, and said, "Eat." Couldn't either speak then either. Just stared at her, like he was trying to figure out what it would cost him. On the house, she'd added. That's when he sat, and ate like he hadn't in days. Back in the present, Marlene placed the plate in front of him. Steam curled upward. The boy looked at it, then at her, just for a second, a quiet acknowledgement. Then he started eating, same as always, fast at first, then slower, like he was reminding himself he didn't have to rush anymore. Marlene leaned against the counter, pretending to read a receipt. But she was watching him. Not obviously. Just enough. Because something about tonight felt off. She couldn't explain it. Nothing had changed. Same diner. Same boy, same routine, but instincts don't ask for permission. They just speak. Outside, a car drove past slower than usual, headlights lingering. Then moving on. Marlene frowned slightly. Probably nothing. This road got the occasional traveler, lost mostly, or passing through. No one ever stayed. The boy paused mid-bite, just for a second, then kept eating. But his shoulders had tightened. He felt it too. Marlene walked over casually, topping off his water glass. "You okay?" she asked softly. He didn't answer, but his eyes flicked toward the window. Then back to his plate. That was answer enough. Years, and still, no name, no voice, no explanation. People had asked, of course they had. Small towns thrive on curiosity. Who's the kid? Or why doesn't he? Why do you keep feeding him for free? Marlene always gave the same answer. He's just a boy who needs to eat, and that was the end of it. But the truth? She'd stopped asking questions a long time ago, because sometimes, people stay silent for a reason. The bell chimed again, this time louder, sharper, not hesitant. Marlene turned. 3 men walked in, not locals. That much was obvious immediately. Clean clothes, pressed, shoes too polished for this kind of road, and their eyes, they weren't looking for food, they were scanning. The boy fork midair. Marlene saw it instantly. That tension again, but stronger now. One of the men stepped forward. Tall, early 40s, calm, but deliberate. "Evening," he said. Marlene didn't smile. "E-kitchen's still open," but she didn't move to grab a menu. because she knew they weren't here to eat. The man's gaze shifted, slowly, until it landed on the corner booth, on the boy, and then something changed. Not recognition exactly, something deeper, like confirmation. "There you are," the man said quietly. The diner went still, even the neon buzz seemed to fade. The boy stood up abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. His breathing changed, not loud, but faster, controlled panic. Marlene stepped forward, subtle, but protective. "He's eating," she said firmly. The man didn't look at her. "Not yet. He's coming with." Now the man looked at her. Really looked this time. Measured. Assessing. "Ma'am, this doesn't concern you." Her jaw tightened. "He's been eating here for 4 years," she replied. "That makes it my concern." Silence stretched. Heavy, uncomfortable. Then, outside, a sound, low at first, like thunder, but the sky was clear. The sound grew louder, closer, rhythmic. Marlene turned toward the window, and what she saw made her breath catch. Lights, multiple, descending. Helicopters, not one, not two, three, landing just beyond the highway, dust kicking up in violent spirals. The entire diner rattling slightly from the force. Inside no one moved. The man exhaled slowly, almost relieved. "Right on time." Marlene turned back to him. "What is—" Her eyes flicked to the boy, who was now backing away, toward the kitchen door. No, not backing away, positioning himself, like he'd done this before. "Then who is he?" Marlene demanded. The man hesitated, just a fraction, then said, "He's been missing for 8 years. 8 years, that didn't make sense. He'd only been coming here for 4. Marlene shook her head. "No, that's not possible." But the man continued. "He's the son of a recalibrated," then chose different words, "someone very important." The boy's hand reached behind, touching the kitchen door, eyes locked on the exits. Calculating. Marlene felt it then, the shift. This wasn't about a runaway, or a lost kid. This was something else, something bigger. "Why hasn't he said anything?" she asked. The man's expression hardened slightly. "Because he can't." "Then, he hasn't spoken since the day he disappeared." Marlene's chest tightened. 4 years, of silence, of eating, of watching, and she'd never pushed, never asked. Maybe, that had saved him. Outside the helicopter blades slowed, dust settled. More pressure. The boy made a decision. In an instant, he turned, and ran, straight through the kitchen. "A stop," one of the men shouted. But Marlene moved first. Not to stop him, to block them, just for a second, just enough. "Wait," she said sharply. The man froze, not because he had to, but because something in her voice made him. "He came here hungry," she said. "Every night. For 4 years. You don't get to just walk in and take him without explaining everything." The man looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, there was something like respect. Then he said quietly, "You've been protecting him this whole time, without even knowing it." Marlene didn't respond. He continued. "He wasn't lost. He was hidden." Her heart skipped. From who?" she asked. The man's eyes flicked toward the helicopter. "From people who just found him again." Silence. Heavy, realization creeping in. "You're not here to help him," she said slowly. The man didn't answer, which was answer enough. From the kitchen, a crash. The boy, still moving, still trying to escape. Marlene stepped aside, just slightly, and whispered, "A back door." The man saw it, understood it, but didn't move. Because now, everything had changed. And for the first time since he walked in, he wasn't sure who the threat really was. The crash in the kitchen wasn't loud. But in a place this quiet, it sounded like a gunshot. Every head turned. Every breath paused. Marlene didn't wait. She moved. Fast. Faster than she had in years. Through the swinging kitchen door, the smell hit her first. Burnt oil, steam, something knocked over. Then she saw him, the boy standing near the back exit, chest rising and wide but not panicked. Focused. Too focused. The back door was still closed. His hand hovered near the handle, but he hadn't opened it yet. "Why?" Marlene followed his gaze. There was a small window above the sink, and through it, you could see the backlot light. They weren't alone anymore. The boy stepped back. Just once, a recalculation. The front was blocked, the back was covered, no exits. Behind Marlene the kitchen door creaked open, slow, controlled. The man stepped in, alone this time, no sudden movements, no raised voice. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. The boy didn't react, didn't blink, didn't move, but his hand, slowly curled into a fist. Marlene stepped slightly in front of him. Not fully, just enough. "You said he was missing," she said. But you didn't say from who." The man exhaled. Like he'd been expecting this. Because that part is complicated. Try me, a beat. Then, he's been under federal protection since he was 8 years old. Marlene frowned. That's not protection, she said quietly, that's hiding. The man didn't disagree. He witnessed something, he continued. Something that got people killed. Silence. Marlene felt it, the weight of that sentence. The boy hadn't moved, but something in his posture shifted. Subtle, almost invisible. He was the only one left, the man said. The only person who saw everything. Marlene's voice dropped. And you lost. The man's jaw tightened. We didn't lose him. A pause. Then, he disappeared. Marlene looked back at the boy. Really looked this time. 4 years, showing up, same time, same seat. Not random, not lost, routine. He chose this place, she said slowly. The man nodded. The man hesitated, then glanced at the counter, visible through the small kitchen window. At the time we didn't know. Marlene's chest tightened. But now, the man looked at her. Directly. Now we do? Silence stretched between them, the implications settled in slow. He hadn't just been coming for food. He'd been coming, for her. Marlene swallowed. Why me? The man didn't answer immediately. Because the truth wasn't simple. He trusts you, he said finally. The words landed heavier than anything else. Because trust like that doesn't happen by accident. The boy shifted, just slightly. Closer, not to the door, to Marlene. The man noticed. Of course he did. And for the first time, something like doubt crossed his face. You've been feeding him, he said. Marlene nodded. Every night, almost. I never asked questions. No. I never reported him in. No. I never tried to make him speak. Marlene's voice softened. I know. Silence again. Then the man said something unexpected. That's probably why he's still alive. Marlene blinked. What does that mean? Before he could answer, a voice crackled through a radio on his belt. Sir, perimeter is set. We're picking up movement on the east side. The man's expression changed instantly. Back to sharp, focused. They're here, he said. Marlene's stomach dropped. They? She repeated, but she already knew. The helicopters weren't the only ones looking for him. They never were. The boy reacted instantly. Not fear, recognition. His breathing changed again, faster now, urgent. He grabbed Marlene's sleeve. Not hard, but enough. And for the first time in 4 years, he looked directly into her eyes. Not past her, not through her, at her. There was something there, something intense, desperate, a message, but no words. He couldn't speak, so he did the only thing he could. He shook his head, once, firm, clear. No, Marlene felt it instantly. He wasn't afraid of them. He was afraid of what would happen, if they took him. The man saw it too, and now, he hesitated, just for a second, which was all it took. From outside, a sharp metallic clang. Then glass shattered in the front of the diner. Everyone flinched. The situation exploded. A move, the man shouted. Chaos, footsteps. Shouting, the boy didn't run. He moved, precise, fast, like he'd done this before. He grabbed something from the counter, a small object, hidden there. Marlene hadn't even noticed it before. He turned, and bolted past her. Not toward the exits, toward the storage hallway. Stop him, someone yelled from the front, but the man raised his hand. No, wait, too late. The boy was already gone. Marlene turned to the man. What did he take? The man didn't answer immediately. Because he already knew. And whatever it was, it changed everything. He's not running, the man said slowly. Marlene frowned. Then what is he doing? The man looked toward the hallway, eyes narrowing. He's finishing something. A chill ran down her spine. Because suddenly, this wasn't about escape anymore. It was about why he came here in the first place. And whatever that reason was, it had been sitting inside her diner, for 4 years. Waiting. The hallway light flickered as the boy disappeared into the back. Marlene stood frozen for half a second. Then she moved. Wait, she called after him. But he didn't stop. Of course he didn't. Behind her the diner had erupted into noise, voices, boots on tile, glass crunching underfoot. But in the hallway it was different, quieter, narrow. Marlene reached the corner just in time to see him, dropping to his knees beside the old storage cabinet. Not opening it, reaching under it. Her breath caught. There was nothing under there. She'd cleaned that floor 1,000 times. Or at least she thought she had. The boy's hand slid into a gap so small it shouldn't exist. Then, click. A sound so soft, you'd miss it if you weren't listening. The base of the cabinet shifted. Not much. Just enough. A hidden compartment. Marlene's mind struggled to catch up. That's been there, this whole time? The boy pulled something out, small. rectangular, wrapped in plastic, a drive, not food, not money. The man reached the hallway just as the boy stood up again. And when he saw what was in the boy's hand, he stopped cold. "Where did you get that?" he asked. The boy didn't answer. He never did. But this time, he didn't need to. Because the look in his eyes said everything. "I didn't get it, I hid it." Marlene felt her stomach drop. 4 years. He hadn't just been coming here to eat, he'd been coming here to check on something. To make sure it was still safe. The man stepped closer. Slowly, carefully. "That drive was destroyed." "We thought it was destroyed." Marlene looked between them. "What is it?" she asked. No one answered, not immediately. Because outside, another sound. Closer now. Not helicopters, vehicles, doors slamming, more people arriving, the wrong people. The man's jaw tightened. "We're out of time." Marlene stepped forward. "No," she said. "You don't get to say that again without explaining." Her voice didn't shake. Not even a little. 4 years," she continued. "He's been under my roof, eating my food, sitting in that booth." She pointed toward the Now people are crashing through my windows and landing helicopters outside. Her eyes locked onto his. "You're going to tell me what that is?" Silence. Heavy. Then, the man made a decision. "The drive contains a recording," he said. Marlene waited. "E-recording of what?" she asked. The man hesitated, then said, "Everything." The word hung there, unclear, unfinished. So he clarified. "The people who took his family." A pause. "And the people who were supposed to protect them." Marlene's breath caught. "You mean?" "Oh yes," the man said quietly. For corruption. Not just criminals. People inside the system. People with power." The boy shifted slightly, still holding the drive, like it weighed more than it should, because it did. That tiny piece of plastic held 8 years of silence, 8 years of fear, 8 years of being hunted. "Why didn't you take it before?" Marlene asked. The man looked at the boy. Because we didn't know where it was." A beat. "And neither did they." Marlene frowned. Then how did he?" She stopped, realization hitting. He didn't trust anyone, so he hid it himself, somewhere no one would look. Somewhere ordinary. Somewhere safe. Her diner. The boy turned toward her again. That same look. Intense. Clear. And this time she understood it. He hadn't chosen her by accident. He'd chosen her because she never asked, she never pushed, she never tried to take control, she just helped. And that made her the safest place in the world. Outside, footsteps approached the back. Fast. "They're coming in," the man said. Marlene looked at the boy, then at the drive, then back at the man. Can you protect him?" she asked. The man didn't answer right. Because now, that question wasn't simple anymore. Finally, he said the only honest thing he could. "I can try." "Not good enough." Marlene shook her head. No," she said. "Food's not good enough." The man held her gaze. "You're right." A pause. "Then, which is why we don't let them take it." A beat. Then another. And just like that, everything shifted. This wasn't retrieval anymore, it was defense. The boy stepped closer. And for the first time, he placed the drive in Marlene's hand. She froze. "You trust me with this?" she whispered. The boy nodded, once, same as before. No hesitation. Marlene swallowed. Because now, this wasn't just about feeding a hungry kid anymore. This was bigger. Dangerous. Irreversible. From the door, a loud bang. They were inside. The man turned toward the hallway entrance. Marlene," he said quickly. "There's a storm drain behind this building. Leads under the highway." She blinked. "There's what?" "No time," he said. Take it. Go." "And you?" A small grim smile. "I'll make sure they don't follow." Another bang. Closer now, voices. Shouting. The boy grabbed her sleeve again. Urgent. Marlene looked down at the drive in her hand, then at him. 4 years, of quiet dinners, of silent trust, of small kindnesses, and now, she made her choice. Come on," she said, and together, they ran. Through the back, into the night, while behind them, the diner that had stayed quiet for decades, finally became something else. A battlefield. The night air hit them hard, cold, sharp, real. Marlene didn't stop. Not when the gravel cut under her shoes, not when her lungs started to burn. The boy stayed close, right behind her, silent as always, but faster now, lighter, like he knew exactly where they were going. "A storm drain," she muttered, scanning the darkness. Then, half hidden behind overgrown weeds, a rusted metal grate, barely noticeable. Of course she'd never seen it before. Why would she? This place had always just been a diner. Until tonight. "Help me," she said. The boy stepped forward instantly. Together, they pulled. The metal screeched. Loud, too loud. Marlene winced. From behind them, voices, closer now, back here, no time. The grate gave way. A go, she said. The boy slipped inside first, effortless, like he'd done it before. Marlene followed. Darkness swallowed them whole. The air changed immediately, damp, cold. The tunnel stretched ahead, narrow, endless. For a moment, all you could hear was breathing. Then, distantly, above them a loud deafening thud, followed by shouting. Then silence. Marlene stopped. What was that? She whispered. The boy didn't answer, but he didn't move forward. Instead, he turned back toward her. Even in the dark, she could see his face. Not scared, not panicked, something else, resolved. Her chest tightened. No, she said quietly. He stepped closer, and gently placed his hand over hers, the one holding the drive. Then he shook his head again once. Clear. No. Marlene's voice broke slightly. We're not staying behind. But he wasn't listening. He never had to. Instead, he did something he had never done before. In 4 years, he tried. His lips parted. A breath, a sound, nothing came out. But he tried again, pushing past something locked deep inside him. And then, a whisper, broken, rough, like it had been buried for years. Run? Marlene froze. Her heart stopped. We spoke, barely, but it was there, real. Her eyes filled instantly. You can talk, she whispered. The boy shook his head. Not really. What is it about? Not fully. Just enough. Just this once. Just for her. Another distant noise echoed through the tunnel. Closer now. They were coming. The boy stepped back. And this time, he didn't hesitate. He turned, and ran the other direction, away from her. Marlene. A voice shouted faintly from the tunnel entrance behind them. The man, still alive, still holding them off. Everything collided at once. The drive, the boy, the men, the truth. And suddenly, Marlene understood. This was never about saving him, it was about finishing what he started. She looked down at the drive in her hand, then back at the boy disappearing into darkness, and made the hardest decision of her life. She ran, the opposite way. Hours later, the sun was just beginning to rise. Soft light stretched across the horizon, quiet, peaceful, like nothing had happened. Marlene stood at the edge of a highway miles away, dust on her clothes, hands still shaking, the drive still in her grip. A black SUV pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. The man, bruised, tired, but alive. Did you get away? He asked. Marlene nodded. A pause. Her throat tightened. She looked out toward the empty road. We don't know. The man studied her. Then, he nodded, like he understood. Because maybe, he did. Good, he said quietly. Marlene frowned. What? The man looked ahead, eyes distant. Because if you don't know a beat, they don't either. Silence. Then Marlene looked down at the drive. What happens now? The man exhaled slowly. Now, he reached for his radio, paused, then lowered it. We make sure the truth gets out. 3 weeks later, the diner was quiet again. The window had been replaced, the glass cleaned, the neon sign still flickering, like nothing had changed. But everything had. Marlene stood behind the counter, same spot, same rag, routine, but not the same, never the same. The bell above the door chimed. She looked up. A customer, just a traveler. She smiled faintly. But her eyes drifted to the corner booth. Always empty now. She swallowed. Then, something caught her eye. On the table, a small object. She hadn't seen it before. She walked over slowly, picked it up. A folded piece of paper. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside, one word, written carefully, like it had taken effort. Like it mattered. Thanks. Marlene let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Her eyes filled, but she smiled, soft, proud, because she understood now. He hadn't just been a silent boy, he'd been a survivor, a witness, and for 4 years he'd chosen her not because she had answered, but because she didn't ask for any. Outside, the neon sign flickered again, and for the first time in a long time, Marlene didn't fix it, because some things aren't meant to be perfect.